Gimmicks 3 by Isaac Asimov. Read from Isaac Asimov, The Complete Stories, Volume 1. "Come, come," said Shapur quite politely, considering that he was a demon. "You are wasting my time. And your own, too, I might add, since you have only half an hour left." And his tail twitched. "It's not dematerialization?" asked Isidore Welby thoughtfully. "I have already said that it is not," said Shapur. For the 100th time, Welby looked at the unbroken bronze that surrounded him on all sides. The demon had taken unholy pleasure, what other kind indeed, in pointing out that the floor, ceiling, and 4 walls were featureless, 2-foot-thick slabs of bronze welded seamlessly together. It was the ultimate locked room, and Welby had but another half-hour to get out, while the demon watched with an expression of gathering anticipation. It had been 10 years previously, to the day, naturally, that Isidore Welby had signed up. "We pay you in advance," said Shapur persuasively. 10 years of anything you want, within reason. And then you're a demon. You're one of us, with a new name of demonic potency, and many privileges beside. You'll hardly know you're damned, and if you don't sign, you may end up in the fire anyway. Just in the ordinary course of things. You never know. Here, look at me. I'm not doing too badly. I signed up, had my 10 years, and here I am. Not bad." "Why so anxious for me to sign them, if I might be damned anyway?" asked Welby. "It's not so easy to recruit Hell's cadre," said the demon, with a frank shrug that made the faint odor of sulfur dioxide in the air a trifle stronger. "Everyone wishes to gamble on ending in heaven. It's a poor gamble, but there it is. I think you're too sensible for that. But meanwhile we have more damned souls than we know what to do with, and a growing shortage at the administrative end." Welby, having just left the army, and finding himself with nothing much to show for it but a limp and a farewell letter from the girl he somehow still loved, pricked his finger and signed. Of course, he read the small print first. A certain amount of demonic power would be deposited to his account upon signature in blood. He would not know in detail how one manipulated these powers, or even the nature of all of them, but he would nevertheless find his wishes fulfilled in such a way that they would seem to have come about through perfectly normal mechanisms. Naturally, no wish might be fulfilled which would interfere with the higher aims and purposes of human history. Welby had raised his eyebrow at that. Shapur coughed. "Precaution imposed upon us by, above. You are reasonable. The limitation won't interfere with you." Welby said, "There seems to be a catch clause, too." A kind of one, yes. After all, we have to check your aptitude for the position. It states, as you see, that you will be required to perform a task for us. At the conclusion of your 10 years, one, your demonic powers will make it quite possible for you to do. We can't tell you the nature of the task now, but you will have 10 years to study the nature of your powers. Look upon the whole thing as an entrance qualification." "And if I don't pass the test, what then?" "In that case," said the demon, "you will be only an ordinary damned soul after all." And because he was a demon, his eyes glowed smokily at the thought, and his clawed fingers twitched, as though he felt them already deep in the other's vitals. But he added suavely, "Come now, the test will be a simple one. We would rather have you as a cadre than just another chore on our hands." Welby, with sad thoughts of his unattainable loved one, cared little enough at that moment for what would happen after 10 years, and signed. Yet the 10 years passed quickly enough. Isidore Welby was always reasonable, as the demon had predicted, and things worked quite well. Welby accepted a position, and because he was always at the right spot at the right time, and always said the right thing to the right man, he was quickly promoted to a position of great authority. Investments he made invariably paid off, and what was more gratifying still, his girl came back to him most sincerely repentant, and most satisfactorily adoring. His marriage was a happy one, and was blessed with 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, all bright and reasonably well behaved. At the end of 10 years he was at the height of his authority, reputation, and wealth, while his wife, if anything, had grown more beautiful as she had matured. And 10 years, to the day, naturally, after the making of the compact, he woke to find himself, not in his bedroom, but in a horrible bronze chamber of the most appalling solidity, with no company other than an eager demon. "You have only to get out, and you will be one of us," said Shapur. "It can be done fairly logically by using your demonic powers, provided you know exactly what it is you're doing. You should by now." "My wife and children will be very disturbed at my disappearance," said Welby, with the beginning of regrets. "They will find your dead body," said the demon consolingly. "You will seem to have died of a heart attack, and you will have a beautiful funeral. The minister will consign you to heaven, and we will not disillusion him or those who listen to him. Now come, Welby, you have till noon." Welby, having unconsciously steeled himself for this moment for 10 years, was less panic-stricken than he might have been. He looked about speculatively. "Is this room perfectly enclosed? No trick openings?" "No openings anywhere in the walls, floor, or ceiling," said the demon, with a professional delight in his handiwork, "or at the boundaries of any of those surfaces, for that matter. Are you giving up?" No, just give me time." Welby thought very hard. There seemed no sign of closeness in the room. There was even a feeling of moving air. The air might be entering the room by dematerializing across the walls. Perhaps the demon had entered by dematerialization, and perhaps Welby himself might leave in that manner. He asked. The demon grinned. "Dematerialization is not one of your powers, nor did I myself use it in entering." "You're sure now?" "The room is my own creation," said the demon smugly, "and especially constructed for you." "And you entered from outside?" "I did." "With reasonably demonic powers, which I possess too." "Exactly. Come, let us be precise. You cannot move through matter, but you can move in any dimension by a mere effort of will. You can move up, down, left, right, obliquely, and so on. But you cannot move through matter in any way." Welby kept on thinking, and Shapur kept on pointing out the utter, immovable solidity of the bronze walls, floor, and ceiling, their unbroken ultimacy. It seemed obvious to Welby that Shapur, however much he might believe in the necessity for recruiting cadre, was barely restraining his demonic delight at possibly having an ordinary damned soul to amuse himself with. "At least," said Welby, with a sorrowful attempt at philosophy, "I'll have 10 happy years to look back on. Surely that's a consolation, even for a damned soul in hell." "Not at all," said the demon. "Hell would not be hell if you were allowed consolations. Everything anyone gains on earth by pacts with the devil, as in your case, or my own for that matter, is exactly what one might have gained without such a pact if one had worked industriously and with full trust in above. That is what makes all such bargains so truly demonic." And the demon laughed with a kind of cheerful howl. Welby sighed indignantly. "You mean my wife would have returned to me, even if I had never signed your contract?" "She might have," said Shapur. "Whatever happens is the will of, above, you know. We ourselves can do nothing to alter that." The chagrin of that moment must have sharpened Welby's wits, for it was then that he vanished, leaving the room empty, except for a surprised demon, and surprise turned to absolute fury when the demon looked at the contract with Welby which he had, until that moment, been holding in his hand for final action, one way or the other. It was 10 years, to the day, naturally, after Isidore Welby had signed his pact with Shapur. The demon entered Welby's office and said most angrily, "Look here!" Welby looked up from his work, astonished. "Who are you?" "You know very well who I am," said Shapur. "Not at all," said Welby. The demon looked sharply at the man. "I see you are telling the truth, but I cannot make out the details." He promptly flooded Welby's mind with the events of the last 10 years. Welby said, "Oh, yes, I can explain, of course. But are you sure we will not be interrupted?" "We won't be," said the demon grimly. "I sat in that closed bronze room," said Welby, "and—" "Never mind that," said the demon hastily. "I want to know—" "Please, let me tell this my way." The demon clamped his jaws and fairly exuded sulfur dioxide till Welby coughed and looked pained. Welby said, "If you'll move off a bit, thank you. Now, I sat in that closed bronze room and remembered how you kept stressing the absolute unbrokenness of the 4 walls, the floor, and the ceiling. I wondered, why did you specify? What else was there besides walls, floor, and ceiling? You had defined a completely enclosed 3-dimensional shape. And that was it, 3-dimensional. The room was not closed in the 4th dimension. It did not exist indefinitely in the past. You said you had created it for me. So if one traveled into the past, one would find oneself at a point in time, eventually, when the room did not exist, and then one would be out of the room. What's more, you had said I could move in any dimension, and time may certainly be viewed as a dimension. In any case, as soon as I decided to move toward the past, I found myself living backward at a tremendous rate, and suddenly there was no bronze around me anywhere." Shapur cried in anguish. "I can guess all that. You couldn't have escaped any other way. It's this contract of yours that I'm concerned about. If you're not an ordinary damned soul, very well, it's part of the game. But you must at least be one of us, one of the cadre. It's what you were paid for. And if I don't deliver you down below, I will be in enormous trouble." Welby shrugged his shoulders. "I'm sorry for you, of course, but I can't help you. You must have created the bronze room immediately after I placed my signature on the paper, for when I burst out of the room, I found myself just at the point in time in which I was making the bargain with you. There you were again. There I was. You were pushing the contract toward me, together with a stylus, with which I might prick my finger. To be sure, as I'd moved back in time, my memory of what was becoming the future faded out, but not apparently quite entirely. As you pushed the contract at me, I felt uneasy. I didn't quite remember the future, but I felt uneasy. So I didn't sign. I turned you down flat." Shapur ground his teeth. "I might have known. If probability patterns affected demons, I would have shifted with you into this new if world. As it is, all I can say is that you have lost the 10 happy years you were paid with. That is one consolation. And we'll get you in the end. That is another." "Well now," said Welby, "are there consolations in hell? Through 10 years I have lived. I knew nothing of what I might have obtained. But now that you've put the memory of the 10 years that might have been into my mind, I recall that, in the bronze room, you told me that demonic agreements could give me nothing that I could not have obtained by industry and trust in above. I have been industrious, and I have trusted." Welby's eyes fell upon the photograph of his beautiful wife and 4 beautiful children, then traveled about the tasteful luxuriance of his office. "And I may even escape hell altogether. That, too, is beyond your power to decide." And the demon, with a horrible shriek, vanished forever. This has been Gimmicks 3 by Isaac Asimov. Read from Isaac Asimov, The Complete Stories, Volume 1. I am Sing Spike. Thank you.